There's a man in your neighborhood worth more than everyone on your street combined. He drives a 9-year-old Toyota. He mows his own lawn. You've walked past him 100 times. Researchers have spent decades studying people exactly like him, and they found the same handful of tells, again and again. 7 of them, and the 7th one the strongest. The one almost nobody guesses is the strangest of all. Part 1. Why you can't spot one. Let's start with why you're so bad at this. Everyone is, because your brain was trained by television. When you picture wealth, you picture the evidence of wealth. The car, the watch, the house on the hill. So you look for expensive things and you assume the person attached to them is rich. But those two things aren't the same, and the gap between them is the entire subject of this video. Because an expensive car doesn't prove someone has money. It proves they spent money. Those are opposite pieces of information, and almost everyone reads them backwards. Here's the thing researchers keep running into. In one of the largest studies ever done, Ramsey Solutions surveyed 10,000 American millionaires. Nearly 8 out of 10 of them inherited nothing at all, not a dollar. And the top careers in that group weren't hedge fund manager or tech founder. They were engineer, accountant, teacher, manager, attorney, teacher, on that list, which means the person you're looking for doesn't look like a millionaire. Because most millionaires don't. They look like the person in front of you at the grocery store. So how do you actually spot one? You stop looking at what they own, and you start reading 7 very specific tells. Let's count them down. Part 2, signs 7 and 6. Sign number 7. The car makes no sense. This is the most famous tell, and it's famous because it holds up. An Experian study found that 61% of American households earning over $250,000 a year don't drive a luxury brand at all. They drive Toyotas, Hondas, Fords. And in the original Millionaire Next Door research, only about 23% of millionaires were driving the current year's model. The tell isn't that the car is cheap. It's that the car doesn't match the person. A senior engineer in a 15-year-old sedan. A business owner in a dusty pickup. The mismatch is the signal. Sign number 6. The house doesn't match the job either. This one's subtler, and it's much more reliable. Wealthy people who stay wealthy tend to buy homes well below what a bank would happily lend them. Not a modest house. A house that's modest relative to what they could obviously afford. Because here's what most people never work out. The expensive house isn't one purchase. It's a permanent tax on your future. Bigger mortgage, higher property tax, more insurance, more heating, more furniture to fill it, more upkeep forever. One decision, quietly draining every month for 30 years. The person who bought 2/3 of the house they qualified for made one choice and freed up decades of money without anyone noticing. Those 2 signs are about things. Now it gets more interesting because the next 2 are about behavior and they're much harder to fake. Part 3, signs 5 and 4. Sign number 5. They know exactly what things cost. Watch someone closely and you'll notice this fast. They know what they pay for electricity. They know what their phone plan costs. They know what a good used car should sell for, not because they're struggling, because they're paying attention. And here's the counterintuitive part. Knowing the price of everything is usually treated as a sign someone doesn't have money. It's very often the opposite. Wealth is built by people who track where money goes. That habit doesn't switch off when the account gets big. It's the reason the account got big. The person who has no idea what their subscriptions cost is telling you something, just not what you think. Sign number 4. Status conversations bounce off them. This one is fascinating to watch in real time. Someone brings up a new car, a renovation, a holiday. The unspoken competition starts. Most people join in. They match the story. They mention their own purchase. It's automatic. Almost everybody does it. The quietly wealthy person just doesn't. They're interested. They ask questions. They're happy for you. And they contribute nothing. Not out of modesty, because the game genuinely isn't interesting to them. That's the tell, not humility, but disinterest. There's a difference, and once you notice it, you can't stop seeing it. Which brings us to the 3 deepest signs. And number 3 is the one that makes people uncomfortable. Part 4. Signs 3 and 2. Sign number 3. They say no without a story. Pay attention to how people decline things. Most of us over-explain. I'd love to, but it's a really busy month. Maybe next time things are tight. We build a justification because saying no feels like an admission. The person with real financial security says, no thanks, not for me. That's it. No reason, no apology, no discomfort, because a no that costs you nothing doesn't need defending. You're watching someone who isn't managing anyone's impression of them, including yours. Sign number 2. They talk about time, not money. Listen to what someone protects. Most people guard their money and spend their time freely. There's always more time and never enough money. Once someone has enough, that flips permanently. They start saying things like, I don't want to spend my Saturday on that. They pay to avoid a hassle. They turn down work that pays well but eats the calendar. They've quietly crossed a line where the scarce resource stopped being dollars and became hours. And people who haven't crossed it almost never talk this way. That's 4 signs about behavior, and 2 about things. 6 down. Now the last one, and it's the one that makes the other 6 almost impossible to use. Part 5, sign 1. Sign number 1, they never tell you. That's it. That's the strongest signal there is. Not a habit, not a purchase, an absence. Real wealth is quiet, and it's quiet for reasons that are much more practical than modesty. Talking about money invites requests. It invites comparison. It changes how people treat you permanently, and you can never take it back. We covered exactly this when we looked at what happens after a windfall. The moment the information leaves your head, you don't control it anymore. So people who have it simply don't mention it for decades. And notice what that means about the other 6 signs. Every single one of them is something you'd only catch by accident. The car in the driveway, a comment about a Saturday, the way someone says no. None of them are announcements. They're leaks. Which is why the wealthiest person you know may be someone you have never once suspected, and why you'd never suspect them, no matter how long you looked. Now, before you start diagnosing everyone in your life, we need to talk about how badly this can go wrong, because these 7 signs have a serious problem. Part 6, when they're completely wrong. Here's where I need to be honest with you, because almost every video on this topic stops one step too early. First, and this matters most, an old car is not evidence of a hidden fortune. The overwhelming majority of people driving a 15-year-old sedan are driving it because that's what they can afford. Frugality and hardship look identical from the outside, exactly identical. If you walk around your life reading other people's difficulty as secret wealth, you're not being perceptive. You're being obtuse and you'll be wrong far more often than you're right. Every one of these 7 signs produces false positives, not occasionally, constantly. Second, the research itself has a well-known flaw. The millionaire next door studied millionaires and found they were frugal, but it didn't study the enormous number of equally frugal people who never became millionaires. Nassim Taleb made this criticism directly. Interviewing a few hundred winners tells you nothing about how many people behaved identically and finished with nothing. That's survivorship bias, the same trap we hit in the janitor video, and it's worth naming every time. Third, even the famous car statistic gets overstated. You'll hear constantly that millionaires drive used cars. The original research is softer than that. Only about 37% had bought their most recent car used, which means the majority bought new. They just didn't replace them every 3 years. The habit isn't buying secondhand. It's keeping things a long time. Those are different claims, and only one of them is supported. And fourth, none of these signs are causes. Driving an old car will not make you wealthy. Nobody ever got rich by declining to mention their holiday. These are symptoms of a financial position, not a route to one. Copying the symptoms of wealth is just a cheaper version of copying the symbols of it. So the honest version is this. These 7 signs are real patterns, and they're genuinely useful as long as you use them on the right person. And that person probably isn't your neighbor. Part 7. The mirror. Because here's the turn. Go back through those 7 signs. But this time, don't think about anyone else. Think about you. How old is your car and why? Did you buy the house you wanted or the house the bank said you could have? Do you know what your subscriptions cost this month? When someone mentions a purchase, do you feel a pull to match it? When you say no to something, how long is the sentence? Are you protecting your time or spending it to protect your money? And the last one, when something good happens financially, do you need people to know? That question is uncomfortable on purpose, because every one of these signs is a decision, not a personality, not luck, a decision. Repeated so many times it stopped feeling like one. The quietly wealthy person didn't win a temperament lottery. They just made the boring choice over and over while nobody was watching. And that's the part you can actually take from this video. You can't control what you inherit. You can't control what you earn this year. You can control how much of it stays. Part 8. The real lesson. So why is sign number 1 the strangest of all? Because it means the entire premise of this video quietly falls apart, on purpose. If the strongest signal of wealth is that you can't detect it, then the honest conclusion isn't, here's how to spot rich people. It's this: stop trying. You will never reliably know who around you has money. The best ones are invisible by design, and the ones broadcasting it are often the least secure of all. On this channel, we met a janitor in Vermont who left behind $8 million and whose own family had no idea. Nobody spotted him, not his neighbors, not his friends, for 92 years, and we watched people handed fortunes overnight who did the exact opposite, announced it, spent it, and had nothing left. Same money, opposite instincts, opposite endings. So here's the version of this that's actually worth your time. The 7 signs aren't a detector you point at other people. They're a checklist you run on yourself, because the wealthiest person you'll ever meet isn't hiding in your neighborhood. They're the person you'll be in 30 years if you start making the quiet choices now. Nobody will notice. That's the whole point. Next time on this channel, we're breaking down another hidden truth about wealth, the one that decides who keeps it and who watches it slip away.